You own a kitchen bursting with gadgets, yet your food depends on refined sugar, MSG powder, and a pharmacy of preservatives, while Romans fed 60 million people across 3 continents using only salt, sunlight, clay, and patience. Apicius, their 1st century cookbook, featured over 400 recipes that leveraged 7 forgotten methods which delivered more flavor, nutrition, and preservation than our entire arsenal of appliances ever could. And modern food science can now prove it. These methods were abandoned not because they failed, but because industry could not scale or patent them. So why did we toss out the slow fermentation of garum, the clay dome of testum, the antioxidant punch of defrutum, and other lost arts that created food both safer and richer than what fills your fridge? Today's kitchen is broken by design. It is time to discover why and what Rome knew that we ignore. Garum was the backbone of Roman flavor and nutrition, yet today it is dismissed as an oddity, replaced by MSG powder and bland industrial fish sauce. In the 1st century, garum was everywhere, poured over meats, vegetables, grains, even desserts. The recipe was brutally simple and impossibly effective. Whole small fish, often mackerel or anchovies, were layered with coarse sea salt in stone vats. For weeks, sometimes months, the Mediterranean sun did the work. Enzymes from the fish's own viscera broke down tissues, releasing a torrent of amino acids, minerals, and healthy fats into a clear, amber liquid. This was not just a salty condiment, it was a chemical powerhouse. At Baelo Claudia on the Spanish coast, the ruins of Roman garum factories still stand. Rows of stone vats, some big enough to wade into, once held thousands of litres of fermenting fish. Archaeologists scraped ancient residue from the vat walls and sent it to the lab. What they found would embarrass any modern food technologist. High-performance liquid chromatography revealed free glutamate levels of 1.2 grams per kilogram, triple what you find in most commercial fish sauces, and far beyond the pure sodium glutamate sprinkled into packaged snacks. Garum did not just deliver umami, it was packed with omega-3 fatty acids at 0.8% by weight, and vitamin B12 at 0.35 micrograms per gram. Even more startling, DNA traces of lactobacilli survived 2 millennia, pointing to probiotic benefits that MSG cannot touch. Dr. Maria Gonzalez, who led the 2010 garum residue study, called it the most complex natural source ever engineered. She points to the chromatogram, spiked with peaks for amino acids, healthy fats, and micronutrients. Modern food science cannot replicate this profile without a pharmacy of additives and a battery of machines. Yet the Romans managed it with sun, salt, and patience. Industry replaced garum with cheap, one-note shortcuts, MSG, table salt, hydrolyzed protein. But none of these deliver the nutritional payload or microbial diversity of real garum. The modern descendant, Colatura di Alici from Campania, clings to the old ways: anchovies, sea salt, clay vats, and a long wait. Its flavor is layered and alive, not flat and metallic. What was lost was not just a sauce, but an entire philosophy of flavor. One that made food safer, richer, and more nourishing at every table. Refined sugar dominates the modern kitchen, dumped by the pound into sauces, glazes, and desserts. It's cheap, flavorless, and stripped of everything but empty calories. The Romans didn't have this luxury or this problem. Instead, they turned to the vineyard. Defrutum, their answer to sweetness, began with nothing more than ripe grape must, simmered for hours over a low fire until it thickened to a glossy, dark syrup. No chemical shortcuts, no industrial machinery, just patience, clay pots, and the slow coaxing of flavour from fruit. In the hills of Campania, a handful of artisans still keep this method alive. Antonio Russo stands over a cauldron, stirring a purple river that bubbles and darkens as the sun drops. He says, "You can't rush defrutum. The flavour comes from time and fire, not from a factory." As water evaporates, the sugars and acids concentrate. But something else happens too. Polyphenols, natural antioxidants, multiply with every passing hour. A laboratory analysis of traditional defrutum clocks in at 45 milligrams of polyphenols per 100 grams, nearly 10 times what you'll find in white sugar. The Brix, a measure of sweetness, hits 65%. But unlike corn syrup or refined sugar, defrutum brings minerals, tannins, and a complexity that industrial sweeteners can't touch. A test panel at the University of Naples compared defrutum to white sugar in a blind tasting. The results weren't close. Defrutum glazed pork came out with layers of caramel, dried fruit, and subtle acidity. The sugar version tasted flat, one-dimensional, and cloying. In Roman recipes, defrutum wasn't just a sweetener, it was a glaze, a sauce base, a preservative. Apicius calls for it in everything from spiced wines to savoury stews. Its antioxidant load, measured in the lab at over 3,000 ORAC units per 100 grams, dwarfs that of any modern syrup. Modern food science strips sweetness down to a molecule. The Romans built flavour up, layer by layer, with every hour of reduction. Defrutum's survival as vincotto and saba in Italian villages is proof that some flavours can't be mass-produced. They can only be earned ad mondsund. As Antonio says, you taste the vineyard, the fire, the season. Sugar is just sweet. Defrutum is alive. The testum was the Roman answer to every modern kitchen's obsession with gadgets and uneven baking. No digital thermostats, no convection fans, just a simple clay dome set over a charcoal fire, radiating heat in every direction. Chef Michele Caldara, standing beside his hand-built testum, gestures to a loaf of bread tucked inside. An infrared camera captures the secret. Beneath the dome, heat moves as a smooth, even wave. No cold spots, no scorched bottoms, no pale, limp crust. The bread rises slowly, encased in 360 degrees of gentle fire. After 45 minutes, Caldara lifts the dome and knocks on the crust. The sound is sharp, almost musical. A digital caliper measures the crust at 3.2 millimeters, nearly double what a modern convection oven produces. The crumb inside is moist, open, and fragrant. Energy use: just 0.9 kilowatt hours, less than most toasters burn through reheating leftovers. In ancient Rome, this dome meant bread for soldiers on campaign, families in cramped city apartments, and bakers in bustling markets. Today, the technique survives in scattered echoes, in Moroccan tagines, Indian handipots, even Dutch ovens. But the original Roman testum delivered a flavour and a texture modern kitchens can't touch. The secret is not speed or automation. It is the physics of clay and the patience to let heat work its magic. A stone mortarium sits heavy on the counter, its interior lined with gritty quartz. This is not nostalgia. It's engineering. Romans used these bowls for everything: pounding garlic, crushing coriander, and blending cheese and greens into mortarmum. Each grind ruptured cells gently, coaxing out oils and aromatics without heat. Compare this to the modern kitchen, where a 20,000 RPM blender whips the same herbs into a hot, oxidized pulp in seconds. The difference isn't just tradition, it's chemistry. Chef Massimo Bottura, 3 Michelin stars in Modena, puts it plainly. When I use the mortarium, I taste the garden. In a blender, I taste the machine. In a controlled test, rosemary leaves were ground by hand for 2 minutes, then blitzed in a food processor. Headspace analysis with gas chromatography, mass spectrometry told the story. The mortarium retained 78% of volatile aroma compounds, while the blender managed just 42%. The culprit? Temperature. The blender's friction spiked the mix by 5 degrees Celsius, enough to send delicate terpenes straight into the air, not the dish. The peaks on the gas chromatography mass spectrometry chart don't lie. More aroma, more flavor, more nutrition, all from slower, cooler mechanics. This is why the world's best chefs are returning to the mortar and pestle. The Romans didn't need electricity or titanium blades. They had patience, stone, and a deep understanding of how flavor survives. In Roman kitchens, the humble terracotta pot was more than a vessel. It was a material advantage. Unglazed clay fired at nearly 900 degrees Celsius created a porous shell that regulated heat and moisture in ways modern metal pans simply cannot. As stews simmered for hours on the hearth, microscopic steam passed through the walls, basting the food from within and concentrating flavors without scorching or drying. Modern cookware, aluminum, stainless steel, or non-stick, leaches metal ions and synthetic chemicals when exposed to acid and heat. ICP-M-S testing in a Berlin lab, led by Dr. Eleanor Markov, compared a Roman-style terracotta pot to a standard aluminum pan. The numbers were unambiguous. Aluminum released up to 2 milligrams of metal per kilogram of food in acidic stews, while the terracotta pot registered less than 0.01 milligrams below the threshold of detection. Dr. Elena Markov explains that clay is chemically inert at cooking temperatures. You get pure flavor, not a trace of metal or plastic. The result is food that tastes of itself, not the vessel. Slow-cooked beans and grains come out creamy, not metallic. Aromatics linger, and the broth picks up a subtle earthiness that is impossible to fake with anodized steel. In every measurable sense, the Romans trusted clay for a reason. It protected both palate and body. A fistful of embers, a handful of ash, and the nerve to bury your dinner right in the coals. This was sub cinere cooking, the Roman answer to flavor and nutrition that modern chefs refuse to touch. While today's kitchens chase precision with sous vide baths and induction burners, the Romans trusted the primal logic of fire and earth. Chef Anne Leban, a Michelin-starred chef in Paris, plunges a dough-wrapped beet into a bed of glowing ash. She is not looking for speed or safety. She is after a crust that crackles, a sweetness drawn out by hours of gentle, mineral-rich heat, something no oven can fake. Columella wrote it plain. Place the pot under a bed of hot ashes. The ashes act as an insulating blanket. The science backs him up. When food bakes under embers, it absorbs a suite of minerals from the ash, potassium, calcium, even a trace of magnesium. Laboratory analysis puts the difference in black and white. Root vegetables cooked sub cinere have 12 milligrams more potassium and calcium per 100 grams than their oven-roasted twins. That is not marketing spin. That is a measurable nutrient boost born of wood, fire, and patience. The crust tells its own story. Instead of the dry, papery shell from a convection oven, sub cinere delivers a thick, caramelized jacket, locking in moisture, concentrating sugars, and infusing a subtle smokiness that no gas flame can touch. Chef Laban breaks open a beet, steam billowing, the flesh stained deep ruby and tasting of earth and sweet ash. She runs her fingers along the crust, marveling at the texture, firm, yielding, almost candied at the edge. You taste the forest, she says. You taste the fire. Modern ovens cannot replicate this. They sanitize, they sterilize, but they strip away the wild element, the minerals, the aroma, the slow transformation that happens only in the embers. For the Romans, this was not a novelty. It was a daily ritual, a way to draw more from the simplest ingredients. What do we gain from trading fire and ash for steel and electricity? Less flavor, fewer nutrients, and a kitchen that has forgotten how to listen to the heartbeat of the earth. A jar of honey sits on the lab bench, golden and undisturbed. Inside, slices of quince and cheese are suspended, unchanged for months. Romans did not just drizzle honey on desserts, they trusted it to preserve the harvest itself. While today's food industry churns out sodium benzoate, potassium sorbate, and BHA by the ton, ancient kitchens relied on the chemistry of honey, a natural fortress against decay, engineered by bees and perfected by time. Professor John Harris, a microbiologist at UC Davis, opens a fresh jar of honey preserved fruit. He explains. Honey pulls water out of microbes before they can even begin to grow. Its water activity sits at 0.56, far below the threshold where bacteria or mold can survive. He runs a quick assay, a drop of honey on a petri dish seeded with E. coli. Within hours, the colony count drops by a factor of 10,000. That is a 10,000-fold reduction in viable cells, numbers that synthetic preservatives cannot match. The secret is not just sugar. As honey absorbs trace moisture from the food, it generates a steady trickle of hydrogen peroxide, an antimicrobial shield that modern chemists still struggle to replicate without side effects. Roman authors like Cato and Columella described how apples, quinces, even cheeses were packed in honey and left for months, emerging as sweet, fragrant, and safe to eat. No refrigeration, no artificial additives, just a dense, acidic syrup with a pH of 3.8 and over 200 bioactive compounds, enzymes, phenolics, organic acids, all working in concert. Modern industrial honey, pasteurized and filtered, loses most of these defenders. What is left is little more than glucose syrup, stripped of its natural arsenal. Professor Harris gestures to a chart comparing colony-forming units over time. Fruits in honey remain nearly sterile for 6 months. The same fruit in a benzoate solution, spoilage sets in within weeks. The Romans were not just lucky, he says. They understood that real honey is a living preservative. Synthetic chemicals are blunt instruments by comparison. In the end, the evidence is plain. The Romans achieved food safety and longevity not with a factory, but with a hive and a jar. Honey preservation was not quaint nostalgia, it was a masterclass in natural engineering, abandoned only because it could not be patented or scaled to fill supermarket shelves. Numbers don't lie, and the lab bench doesn't care about nostalgia. 3 experiments, 3 Roman methods, 1 reality check for the modern kitchen. First, garum. In the chromatogram, the Roman sauce's performance index towers over commercial fish sauce and monosodium glutamate. The spike for free glutamate is 3 times higher, natural, not synthetic, while omega-3 fatty acids and vitamin B12 register at levels modern condiments can't approach. Probiotic DNA is present in garum, absent in everything else. The data is blunt. Garum delivers a spectrum of nutrition and complexity that monosodium glutamate, and factory fish sauce simply fail to match. Next, the testum. Infrared thermal imaging reveals a field of uniform heat, no cold spots, no burnt edges. The crust thickness index on bread baked in the testum nearly doubles that of a convection oven. Moisture retention scores higher, crumb structure is more open, and energy use is lower. The testum's performance isn't a matter of taste, it's physics. Modern ovens, with all their circuitry, can't replicate the even, enveloping heat of a simple clay dome. Finally, mortarium. Gas chromatography, mass spectrometry, headspace analysis exposes the truth. Hand grinding in a Roman mortar preserves almost twice the volatile aroma compounds compared to a high-speed blender. Temperature rise is minimal, vitamin C loss is negligible, and the flavor molecules stay where they belong, in the food, not in the air. Each metric flashes across the screen, each one a rebuke to the modern obsession with speed and automation. The evidence is stacked, method after method. Rome's kitchen wasn't primitive, it was optimized in ways we've forgotten. 15 palates, all blind to the origins, sat before two sets of dishes, one crafted by Roman method, the other by modern shortcut. No labels, no hints, just taste, aroma, and texture as the only judges. Each panelist scored on depth of flavor, complexity, and overall satisfaction, marking their cards in silence as the plates made their rounds. The numbers were tallied behind closed doors. When the jury spokesperson stepped forward, the room held its breath. She read the results with a steady voice. The Roman prepared dishes claimed 11 out of 15 first-place votes. Not a single panelist ranked the industrial version higher for aroma or aftertaste. Bread from the testum was praised for its crackling crust and moist crumb. The mortarium ground meritum filled the air with bright, living herbs. De frutum, glazed pork, drew comparisons to caramel, dried fruit, and wild honey, while the sugar-glazed control was dismissed as flat and cloying. Even the honey-preserved fruit, pulled from its jar after months, outshone its benzoate-treated twin, described as vivid and unbelievably fresh. The spokesperson summed up the consensus. There is a depth here we just do not find in modern food. Every bite tells a story. The numeric ranking was clear. Roman methods took the top spot in every category but speed. The panel's verdict was not nostalgia, it was data, translated into taste. Here, flavor and nutrition triumphed. Not because of ancient mystique, but because the science and the senses agreed. The kitchen of Rome, stripped of gadgets and chemicals, delivered what the modern kitchen cannot. This is the reality. Today's food industry buries flavor, nutrition, and ingenuity beneath profit and convenience. Roman cooks wielded salt, sun, clay, and patience. They crafted food that nourished empires, not just shelves. Every shortcut we accept erases centuries of wisdom. The question is not what technology can do, but what it steals. The ancient kitchen's brilliance waits for reclaiming if you are bold enough to demand more from every meal. Share your rebellion below.